My roommate switched our rooms whilst I was away. OP discovers there's more to the story. I've been living in this apartment for almost 8 months. We had a great internet connection when I met Lana on a roommate service. Despite her age, she seemed mature. We had to find a place to live quickly, so we decided to become roommates, and so far we've gotten along great until this point. We have 2 bedrooms in our apartment, and to be honest, my room is definitely the better one. It includes built-in wardrobes and is larger. I looked for the apartment on my own first, then after making a deposit to remove it off the market, I found a roommate. I was eager to move in before anyone else because the apartment was ideal, the rent was inexpensive, and my aunt was the property manager. Since it's in a popular area, I wasn't too concerned about not finding a roommate. Naturally, I picked the larger room because of the aforementioned, plus the fact that I arrived first. I made sure to point out the smaller room and declare, "This would be your room," when I showed prospective roommates, including Lana, around. Since our move 8 months ago, the families have been pleased. Never heard Lana complain about her room. I told her she was free to store her off-season clothes or anything else she wanted to store in my about 6 times larger closet than hers, provided she didn't come in every morning to get ready. This pleased her. A little more than a month ago, I took a trip. Although I don't really like having guests in my room, I did tell Lana that if she invited someone to stay, her sister or some friends from home, they may sleep in my bed. She thanked me, and since she's been such a wonderful roommate and doesn't often have visitors outside of her partner, I wasn't concerned at all. I returned yesterday. I simply wanted to take a shower and go to bed because I was so tired after the airplane and the travel. Lana and her boyfriend were in the living room when I entered. We greeted each other, gave each other hugs, had a brief catch-up, etc. After that, I brought my bag to my room and opened the door to discover that it was filled with goods I didn't own. I sort of exclaimed, "What the duck?" and thought for a while that I was so jet-lagged that I didn't know what to do, but then I opened Lana's room and saw all that I had. When I asked Lana what was going on, she answered, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention we put my stuff in your room just because it's bigger and you weren't here and you said I could use it." This happened in the living room. Since I was so exhausted at the time that I might have passed out, I told her to move everything back right away because I wasn't in the best of moods. She remarked that since I appeared exhausted and they were in the middle of preparing dinner, I ought to go to bed. Her date then said, "And anyway, you pay the same rent, so isn't it fair that you both get the big room at some point? We'll deal with this tomorrow." "And it's getting pushed back," I muttered, getting really upset and feeling like I was going to cry from lack of sleep. Then I went to sleep somewhere other than my room. I'm furious because I just woke up. I can't talk to Lana right now as she's at work, but what should I do when she gets home? I predict that this will not be as easy as saying, "Okay, let's swap now that you're home." Instead, it will become a fight. Edit. I've relocated my belongings back, following the majority of the recommendations in this thread. It's taken hours and I'm exhausted, but I believe there would be serious issues if I left it till another night. When I was almost done, I texted Lana to say, "Hey Lana," just in case she made a big deal out of it and came home. "I hope your day at work is going well. I wanted to make sure you didn't come home and enter the incorrect room, so I'm shifting my belongings back into mine. Yes, I am petty. This is really strange for her, and I'll be talking to her when she gets in because it's out of character. She's always been a model roommate, so before we break up, I'm going to give her another chance. I'm happy to talk to her about rent portions if she wants to be reasonable. She's never had a problem with the rent before, and to be honest, I've never had inconsistent rent amounts in any apartment I've ever lived in, bigger or smaller. However, a lot of people here claim that this is the standard, so if she's not ridiculous, I'm open to talking about it. Update. You see? I texted Lana to let her know that I had relocated my belongings back. She didn't respond to me, which is great, but she didn't act rudely, so I assumed everything was good. I just wanted to let my aunt know that everything was probably worked out. She was just as confused as the rest of you, so I informed her what had transpired. My partner, who works 5 minutes away, was also informed. He volunteered to visit in case Lana's boyfriend showed up, but I warned him not to, as that would mean we would all be teaming up against Lana. In case we required assistance, he insisted on going for a coffee with his friend a few roads away, which is so sweet of him but also kind of stupid. Not because I was anxious, but just because I enjoy wine, I got myself a glass whilst I waited for Lana to get home. She walked in, and I was sitting in the living room giving her a really frigid hi. With her luggage in hand, she hesitated in a way that made her gaze flit between our bedroom door and mine. I responded, "What, move the rooms back?" And she yelled, "Did you do it?" Indeed, without a doubt. Her eyes widened, and she quickly dropped her purse and dashed into the restroom. I was excited to see Tom arrive because I could hear her conversing on the phone. Just as I was going to give her a hard time for being so crazy, I heard the door open and she emerged from the door, standing in between our bedrooms. She just stood between their 2 doors, breathing deeply, and stared. It was quite strange. I asked what was wrong after noticing she was sobbing and acting a little agitated. She sobbed and exclaimed, "Omig, he's going to kill me," confirming what many of us suspected, that it was all the boyfriend's idea. To be honest, I came to this sub because she's always been the ideal roommate. You know what I mean? I would have known how to react if she was a regular asshole. Nevertheless, Lana has a minor breakdown and discovers that POS Tom has always been a bit of a POS. I've always noticed signs of his jealousy, but I ignored them because Lana never brought them up. Now that I'm gone, he's become much more POS. He had finished school and had moved in without warning when I left. When she would bring up the fact that he hadn't been home for days, he would give her the what? Don't you love me? I treat you so well, you're so selfish, blah blah, line, and wouldn't leave. She showed me the horrifying messages he had sent her, including things like, send me a picture of you at your desk with something showing today's date so I know you're at work, and ring me in the next 5 minutes or we're over. On to the room. He relocated it as we had predicted. He did it when she was at work, which is kind of nasty to think of him looking through my stuff. To make him squirm a little, I'm thinking of hinting that I have crabs or anything he could catch, but I'll work on it. When Lana arrived home, she exclaimed, "What are you doing?" He pretended that it was only a temporary situation and that he would move it back, saying, "It's a gentleman speaking on my behalf." He also claimed that she was being extremely self-centered. A few days before my return, Lana proposed putting it back. He flatly denied saying that, telling her that it was her decision to move and that he had just followed her instructions. However, he added that it would remain in its current location or she would apologize. In other words, Lana cried, apologized, and sobbed, and I gave her wine. Tom is a jerk. She didn't want to meet Tom, who evidently thought he now lived there, so I texted him from her phone to let him know he couldn't come over tonight since our landlady, my aunt, was coming over for an inspection and would be staying for dinner with my family after. I called my aunt, explained the situation, and asked her to write us a fictitious email about the visit and how much she was looking forward to fajitas, because she's a total babe and I make good packet fajitas. We forwarded this email to Tom after he sent a ton of begging texts and went on the offensive by calling Lana a liar. With the exception of a few texts, he left her alone herself the remainder of the evening. I'm not sure what we should do with Tom exactly. Judging by her sobbing and yelling, I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. Into her wine, Lana seems to be ready to end the relationship, but I believe she's afraid to. It's a comfort that he doesn't have a key, according to what I found out from her. After hearing everything, my aunt said she would be pleased to kick him out of the apartment, but first, Lana would have to break up with him and figure that all out. I appreciate all of the advice. Though it wasn't the most exciting update, perhaps Lana will be alright. We're going to have some feminine fun this week, so we won't be seeing Tom, and who knows what else might happen. Update 2. So Lana and Tom split up not too long after I wrote my last post. Given that he is insane and that it took 2 weeks from the last post to the real breakup, she was apprehensive about taking the plunge. She prevented him from seeing her or coming around throughout that period. Fortunately, she recalled that Tom had never had chickenpox as a child. As a result, we made up a story in which my nephew became ill and had to remain with us, as my brother's wife had never had the illness and could not take the chance of developing shingles. Fortunately, it worked, and he avoided it. She texted him to tell him she wanted to break up after telling her family and close friends about his behavior in case he lied to them when he tried to get in touch with her. He really bungled the whole thing. Called her all the names in the world, went back to calling her the love of his life, apologized, said she would never find someone like him, threatened to murder her, and finally declared that they were soulmates. It was crazy. He began emailing me as well, calling me a evil bitch who had ruined his perfect wife, LOLK. Her friends and relatives also received messages from him, as was to be expected. Ignoring that, we both turned off our phones and settled in to watch TV. Later, I momentarily turned mine on and I saw that several of my friends were messaging me to tell me to block a particular guy on social media. Tom was tagging me on my public Instagram profile with any creative usage of the letter C he could come up with. Even a couple racist slurs were said, which was strange given we're both white, yet acceptable. He had previously been barred by Lana on all platforms, but I foolishly neglected to set my Instagram private. He called Lana's office the following day to let her know he was heading down to our apartment. She was really humiliated. It was terrible. She called me, then I called my aunt, you recall, the property manager, who informed us that we needed to call the police. After we reported Tom, they instructed us to get an update on the circumstances. We haven't obtained a restraining order in the UK since you have to go to court for one, but the proof is all there and well documented in case we need to go that far. At our request, the police called Tom to let him know they had read the messages and to turn back his car because he would be arrested if he showed up at our house. May I just say that these policemen are great. After that, Tom was able to kick himself enough to not show up. So for a week, we were good. Next, a post appeared. Tom began to write letters, threats and cliched expressions of love, blossoms. Then we paid for a pizza, which we ate because we were genuinely hungry. He got us a subscription to a magazine. It was strange. Once more, we went to the police. Lana refused to appear in court even though they had filed everything. She was really stressed out by the whole event, so I don't blame her. I brought my mother and aunt out to dinner 2 weeks ago. After I explained the matter to them both, my goddess of an aunt came up with a solution. Not only does she maintain our house, but she also oversees roughly 30 other houses, some of which are currently vacant due to school ending. She said she would take us around all 2 of her bedrooms and that we could move into either of them for the same rent we pay now, only transferring our deposit and other costs in the event that there are no damages to be deducted, and we assist in giving it a thorough cleaning in preparation for the next tenant. If the past rent disagreement worries you, we discovered one that's similarly wonderful and has bedrooms that are the same size within a 5-minute drive. Thus, we relocated. We're now moved in, which is why the past 2 weeks have been crazy. The items Tom has sent since have been returned, so he has now been notified that we have relocated. He and Lana have no communication at all, and anyone who pays us a visit knows not to give Tom our address. I also apologized to Lana for the problem with our rent payments being the same. She claimed she had never experienced any issues with it, and that's how she always handled it, while in college and living with other people. Although she declined to receive money from me, I have made the decision to pay for the weekly flat wine sessions going forward. Things are fine today, even though my trip tan has faded after a long and exhausting month.